Welcome, everyone, to the July 18th, 2019 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. Would you all please stand, and I will lead you in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm Barb Lewis, President. To my left is our Vice President, Jeff Benton. To my right, fellow Commissioner Gary Merrill, our Administrator, Mike Fromer, and our Clerk, Jennifer Walraven. We can begin.
Resolution number 19-674 in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held July 15th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-674. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Have any public comment today for our regular session? Resolution number 19-675 in the matter of approving purchase orders and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 0717 and memo transfers in batch number MT APR 0717.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-675. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-676 in the matter of approving travel expense requests.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-676. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-677 in the matter of accepting and approving the Delaware County Sheriff's Office Transport Report for the month of June 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-677. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-678 in the matter of granting annexation petition from agent for the petitioner Molly R. Gwynn requesting annexation of .912 acres of land in Concord Township to the village of Shawnee Hills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-678. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-679 in the matter of granting annexation petition from agent for the petitioner Andrew Wecker Esquire, attorney at law, requesting annexation of 35.336 acres of land in Liberty Township to the city of Powell.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-679. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-680 in the matter of approving the sanitary sewer improvement plans for Carriage Cove, Harper's Point Phase 1, Phase 2, Hyatt's Crossing, and River Bluff Phase 1.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelly Theo with the Regional Sewer District. These are all plans that have been reviewed by our office, and they meet our standards and rules and regulations, and we're recommending them for approval.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-680. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-681 in the matter of approving the sanitary sewer subdividers agreement for Scioto Ridge Crossing, Section 5.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, this is a set of plans that have been approved, and we have everything that we need to move forward with construction. This subdividers agreement has been reviewed by the prosecutor's office, and our office is recommending approval at this time.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-681. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Item number 10 has actually been pulled from the Environmental Services Department, so that brings us to item number 11 on page 517. Resolution number 19-682 in the matter of accepting sanitary sewer improvements for Verona Phase 3.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
This development, all the testing is complete on these improvements, and they've been found to be acceptable, so we're recommending approval at this time.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-682. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-683 in the matter of reducing the solid waste tipping fees for Delaware County Fair Trash.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
As in years past, our contractor, COC, has agreed to reduce the tip fees for the fair the trash collected from the fair to be reduced by their fees by 50%, and then the county will waive our portion of the profit. This year, we'll make sure that we communicate that to the TIP, the transfer station staff.
Okay.
Last year, I think there was a communication on this except for the person out on site.
Oh, that's
Working for the
right.
contractor, if you guys remember that, we were out there last year. So we're to make sure the person out on
That's
site
right.
knows that the
Yes.
fees are reduced, so.
It's something we do every year, and it just seems like we just did it. You're doing
Yeah.
too fast, don't you?
It's fast,
do.
yeah.
They do. Yeah, great idea. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-683. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-684, in the matter of approving a transfer of appropriations for code compliance.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Vote. I'm sorry. Whoops, discussion. Brad? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So today I'll be playing the part of Fred Fowler, and Carla Heron a little bit later on, so I guess I'm the understudy today. So for Fred,
Starring role or support role?
oh, I'm support all the way, never the star. So for this transfer of appropriations, obviously is something we like to watch extra closely when we're moving money from payroll to non-payroll or vice versa. In this case, we're moving money from payroll to non-payroll because we are still actively searching for fully staffing our code compliance department. So we've had to farm out a significant number of the electrical inspections, and the company that is doing those obviously is paid out of contract services. So we're moving money from payroll to non-payroll for completing services that in theory would have been completed by staff should we have been fully staffed.
Okay. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-684. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-685, in the matter of appointing a member to the Delaware County Board of Zoning Appeals.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jane Hodge, Director of Communications. We have before you a resolution to appoint a member to a seat that has long been vacant on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I do have one little change to make in there. Under Section 2, it says the reappointment. It should just be appointment.
Appointment.
Approved.
Okay.
And this is for Mr. Colin Howard, and we recommend your approval.
Okay. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-685. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 19-686, in the matter of accepting the award of a grant for the Delaware County Board of Elections.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
So the reason I stand before you today on this one, which by the way, I don't think I introduced myself last time, so for the viewing audience, Brad Lutz, Director of Business Operations and Financial Management. First off, I want to start by saying Carla wanted me to extend her apologies for not being here. There was a multi-county meeting that was scheduled today out at the Board of Elections, so that her and her administrative staff are obviously taking part in that. This is a $50,000 grant related to election security from the federal government under the Help America Vote Act, HAVA. This can be spent on any number of things related to election security. These aren't the things I'm going to list off aren't necessarily the things that they're going to spend the money on. They still need to make those decisions, but these things could be new computers, background checks of poll workers and other staff, changes in the website if needed. We could work, I mean, they could even use this money to pay a website developer if they need to add some special security to the website. They can work with IT and potentially spend money, some of this money on servers or network upgrades, once again, to harden, using the term out there, the security from foreign invaders. The money can be returned if not all spent, so there is no need to spend this money down to zero. There is also no match requirements, so no money is needed from the county and/or Board of Elections to receive this money or utilize this money, and it will be kept in an interest-bearing account with the interest going to the general fund while it's sitting in this account. And today, we're just setting up the org key so they can make the deposit. The check is in hand, ready to deposit.
Okay. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-686. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-687, in the matter of establishing the Delaware County Pre-Hospital Care System Advisory Board.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. At our February 7th meeting, you all passed a resolution to start the discussions of the Pre-Hospital Care Board. We have been meeting since April, kind of working through some vision and mission. You know, I think we all know that when you start groups like that, it's really important to get together, brainstorm, kind of figure out what your goals are going to be. And, you know, and I think things have gone really well since then. And now we're kind of coming back now that we have a good feel for that. You know, we've got a resolution that kind of memorializes that a little bit on what the role and the focus is going to be. There's also a separate vision, mission goal document too. That's not part of the resolution because it'll probably be a ongoing thing that gets updated routinely. So,
Okay,
so we have the resolution for your approval.
okay, great.
Yeah, I just have a comment. This is something Gary Vest and I worked on to set up, and although I have not been involved in the meetings, but getting the policies and procedures worked out to make this a better county, more efficient
Yes.
county is the purpose, and I'm very optimistic about the results.
Yeah. Sure, yes. I think the Pre-Hospital Care Board already has benefited the county and will continue to do so because it brings together all of our emergency medical service providers, and it brings them about on a more formal and consistent basis. And it will enable everyone to work more closely together to maximize best practices and improve efficiencies in delivering high-quality emergency patient care throughout Delaware County. And it also provides a means for reaching countywide operational consensus and for making recommendations to our board. So I fully support its formation and, or continued formation, I guess, thanks to Commissioner Merrill, thanks to former Powell Police Chief Gary Vest, too.
He's
And
enjoying his retirement.
Yes, yes,
see.
right.
He's going to be busy, I'm sure.
He will, but I think he's going to remain busy, you're right, you're right. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-687. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
That brings us to administrator reports. We do have a resolution to consider under administrator reports. Resolution number 19-688, in the matter of approving termination of declaration of covenants and restrictions by and among Kinsale Village LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, Golf Village North LLC, an Ohio Limited Liability Company, and the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio.
Some of
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. This is actually a really good resolution. I think there's a lot of meaning behind this. You know, there was a trunk sewer that was long awaited to get up to the Liberty Sawmill area. It was really impeding and holding back a lot of growth in that area. And with that trunk sewer in place, that area is open for development. And now with the hospital coming with OSU, it's set in place to go. And this, you know, removing this agreement, there was previously a restriction on how much could develop in that area. And so this is just kind of a cleanup resolution. But, you know, when you look at the big picture, that trunk sewer was needed to really open that area for the kind of development we've been looking for. So it's kind of a nice thing, so.
that project goes way back.
Yeah.
We're back-
I was gonna say, I think you started, you were involved with that, so.
And that pump station's been offline for some time.
It has been,
Since the
as
trunk
part,
sewer
yeah.
is in place. And it does, you know, the really important thing is it does allow Ohio State Hospital to move forward and
Yes.
hopefully start their construction real soon.
Yeah, when they first contacted us, that was they were concerned about the limited capacity in that area, and we had the trunk sewer there, so.
Great. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-688. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Any other
I
reports?
have nothing else to report.
Commissioner reports.
Commissioner Merrill? Yes, you get to go first.
First of all, you made a comment, you said good resolution. That implies you've had bad resolution.
No,
So I just want to just an observation I made. I have several things, and I know some of these Commissioner Benton would have mentioned, so thank you. BIA parade, we had an opportunity to attend it Tuesday evening, and, you know, Evans Farm is where the parade is this year, and I know we've had the parade, it's almost selfish, we've had the parade so many times over the last 10 years, but beautiful homes. I'd encourage everyone to try to get out, look at them. They're certainly out of my price range, but they're beautiful homes, and it's really going to add something to that area. And Orange Township, I'm sure, is very proud. And in fact, at least one of the trustees were there at the evening event on Tuesday. We did get a little rain towards the end of it.
Yeah, a lot of rain. Yeah.
A few other things. I had the privilege of attending NACO's National Convention. I'm on two committees, Energy, Environment, and Immigration. And I'm probably alluded to this before. Immigration, we get so caught up on the southern border, and immigration is really a much bigger issue than that. And I like to think that I provide an alternative voice to some of the voices in the room. So I'll just leave it at that. Got a letter this week that I know we all received, Marlene Cassini retiring. She's been kind of well, I've been a commissioner for the last 7 years, and just part of the Delaware Foundation, and that's going to be certainly an adjustment. She's also in my Rotary Club, and it's a phrase we've used before on some others, but she will be missed. And I wish her the best. I believe she's there through the end of the year.
Yeah, Marlene, I was on the board then when we hired Marlene, which was probably 2004, I want to say. And
Say 15 years, I think.
been there about 15 years, and the foundation's really become a cog, an important part of our community, you know, in helping donors achieve their goodwill efforts. And they've been phenomenal.
So she'll be there for a while. I don't know if her plans are to stay in the state or move somewhere else, but haven't had an opportunity to talk to her yet, but we have shared a text, at least I sent to her. Two other things, bed tax has been signed by the governor, and so that is behind us, and that's will require some evaluation on our part over the next few weeks or months, and as we look into that, but and thank you to our representatives and those obviously in the legislature that supported, and the governor who supported it. And the one last thing, horse parade. I received a phone call or text, which led to a phone call last couple of days. Traditionally, they have set up as people pass by, announcing them in front of the building at the corner. And because of that, a lot of people have sit in the courthouse area, and that may be an issue that because of work that's going to be done in the front of the building. So the plan is right now, I spoke to Diane Winters, and they have a meeting next Tuesday evening. I suggested they move the meeting here. We can have a meeting here, so I'm going to join them. And since the suggestion was made that we just move it down in front of this building, if that's possible. And I think John mentioned another possibility that I'll bring to their attention to evaluate, maybe moving it down in front of the courthouse. So, but with that, just FYI that I'll be joining that meeting on Tuesday just to provide some suggestions, and if I have some questions, I'll seek answers if I don't know the answers. So, and that's all I have. I hope that took everything and left you speechless.
No, you missed a few things.
So,
You didn't see my list.
Yeah.
One other thing on the parade that Commissioner Merrill didn't mention is the Property Brothers are going to be there Sunday.
Yes,
Barb's friends
Yes,
from the Tanger Outlet Mall opening.
Oh, boy, they're impressive.
They're really neat guys, and they're going to be there on Sunday. So my guess is you want to stay away, because it's probably going to be so crowded. But it's
I don't
Sunday
know,
afternoon.
though, but, you might just want to weigh it out, and so you get to see them and
Right.
talk to them. They've got a great sense of humor.
Yeah, they do. They're fun. It's neat that they're coming again to Delaware County. Shows you we got a lot of big stuff going on.
That's right.
The Ironman event is this weekend here in the city, so it'll be crowded for that.
are you participating?
I think my Ironman event is going to be 70 holes of golf, not 70 miles of running and biking and swimming.
70 holes of golf?
That's a good idea.
To try.
The week after this?
Is it the week after this? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, the car show this weekend. There's always stuff going on in Delaware, so, but yeah. So anyway, car show this weekend, Ironman next weekend.
You said 70 holes of golf. Now, mostly people are playing 18 holes at 72 holes. Are you going to quit 2 holes short of that?
At least 70.
Okay.
I can go further, probably. I'm going to try. Speaking of golf, the British Open has started, and it's almost, the first round's almost done, actually. It's got a few hours to go. Hopefully no one stayed up all night. I don't know if that's why we have DVRs. But anyway, it should be a great event. It's in Rory McIlroy's home country and near his hometown and everything, so it's really neat. And then 50 years ago, Saturday, the Neil Armstrong, they landed on the moon. Neil Armstrong did the first, man on the moon walk. And so I wanted to just highlight that that's another Ohio person that, has done very well. It's one of those things that everyone remembers where they were.
That's right.
When they took that first step on the moon.
Those old enough to remember.
Marissa, do you remember?
Eric is shaking his head. He doesn't remember.
You don't remember? Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Oh, Marissa.
So, anyway, a lot going on in Delaware. It's great to see. That's all I got.
All right. Boy, I don't know how I can follow that. I would like to, recognize Chip Thompson, who worked so successfully and so hard regarding the bed tax. Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he started that process.
Oh,
I've
gosh.
been in office a few months, and
5 years ago
yeah,
plus.
we had a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
Yes,
And the
yeah.
fairgrounds is being transformed. It's going to take a while, but it is being transformed to what Delaware County should have. Yeah, John's got a little extra work to do.
Yeah, yes, right.
So, yeah, very good.
And also like to thank the governor and the legislature for this year's biennial, the recent passage, like very recent passage. I think the governor's just signing the budget this morning, but our indigent defense ask, which is very important to the counties. The state will be picking up the cost of indigent defense rather than the counties having to do that year after year, even though that is mandated, that it is a state expense. That was the top priority.
That was shifted to the county.
It was shifted to the counties year after year, and then our portion.
I think we're getting
of-
about 40% of what we were getting paid.
Yeah. And yeah, we ended up having to pay even more. Also, there are great things in this budget to help children who are in need, and it's just great to see the emphasis on that too. So congratulations.
In JFS in
And-
particular.
Yes.
They're
through-
much better funding
Right.
for the children
That's-
that need care in JFS.
And that's an area that's real important to the governor.
It is,
children
it
issues.
is. Those were the first executive orders that he issued. So thanks also to Representative Carfagna and Brenner and Jordan for any of their help on this, so. And we have
5 minutes.
5 minutes
Recess,
until our Kingston session begins, so we will just recess until 10 o'clock. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back to order now. Resolution number 19-689, a final hearing for the Kingston Township Watershed number 2017-2 Drainage and Petition Improvement Project.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-689. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-690, in the matter of approving for a specific occurrence a suspension of Rule 3, speaker registration, Rule 4, limitations, and Rule 7, public comment procedures from the rules governing public comment before the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19690. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We'd like to welcome everyone to the final hearing for the consideration of the Kingston Township Watershed number 2017-2 Drainage Improvement Petition. And there is a sign-in sheet that I think has been circulating, so I ask that everyone sign in if you haven't signed in already. And copies of the report from the county engineer and the Soil and Water Conservation District are available also. And the county engineer and the Soil and Water Conservation District will cover a presentation on the project, and the presentation will include additional maps, current photos, photos of the path of proposed construction, possible drone flight videos, and pictures of similar construction to better illustrate what is being proposed. This presentation will also include a sample amateurization of a construction assessment to illustrate what an 8-year repayment may look like, an explanation of maintenance assessments, and an illustration of what a percentage collection means. And first, we're going to hear if we have any questions from the board, we will ask those questions. Then we will hear from all those in favor of the petition project. And then we will hear from all those opposed to the petition project. And during the testimony, before you testify, I will be giving you an oath. And we will go back and forth if no information comes up or if additional people would wish to speak. And then, after listening to the testimony and the report of the engineer, the board will decide whether to find in favor of the improvement, affirming the order, and confirming the maintenance assessments, or the board may dismiss the petition by setting aside the order. And when the board considers they have this question, we have to take into account the following in our decision according to the Ohio Revised Code. Whether the board hereby finds that the proposed improvement is necessary, that it will be conducive to the public welfare. The board would also find that it is, if they find in favor of the petition, that it is reasonably certain that the cost of the proposed improvement will be less than the benefit. Wait a minute, let me rephrase that. The board also finds that we have to consider in our decision-making whether the cost is greater than the benefit, so, and therefore decide also regarding that. So it is all yours. Brett.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. I do have a brief presentation that will highlight the project, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have. So,
Okay.
this project is known as the Kingston number 2017-2 Drainage Improvement Project. It's been requested by landowners within that watershed per Section 6131 of the Ohio Revised Code. Project timeline, the petition for the project was filed in January of 2018. It was filed by Dave Smith and others. The petition specifically says, commencing in Delaware County, Kingston Township, within the Kingston Township number 2017-2 watershed, and generally following but not limited to the course and termini of existing improvements. The petition request is to generally improve the drainage, both surface and subsurface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, and/or altering the existing improvements and/or creating new surface and subsurface drainage ditches, mains, or laterals as requested by this petition. The drainage currently jumps watershed, and that is a direct quote from the petition itself. On April 23rd of 2018, the board held the view for the project. July 3rd of 2018, an application for amendment was filed by Joan Adkins to, quote, provide R/my parcels with a good and sufficient outlet for both surface and subsurface drainage. July 19th of 2018, we had the first hearing for the project. At that hearing, the board approved the petition to proceed to survey and design. The watershed for this project is 64.591 acres. That watershed is 40% agricultural land, 58% rural residential, and 2% road right-of-way. The original petition was signed by representatives of 11 of the 26 parcels in the watershed. And for the purposes of dividing up costs, we have divided the project into the north and the south section. The south section would be from the north right-of-way of Todd Street Road heading south to the junction with the Little Walnut Creek. It consists of open channel 2 to 4 feet deep, clearing and snagging of brush and debris, rock line channel, drive culvert replacements, subsurface drain installation, and a culvert installation under Todd Street Road, which would be direct assessed, or in other words, the cost would be fully paid for that by Kingston Township and the Delaware County Engineer's Office. The north section would go from the right-of-way up to the Adkins Field, as shown on the map. Consists of a grass surface drain, subsurface drain installation, clearing and snagging of trees in the path of construction, and a drive culvert installation. We have a drone video of the path of the project. This will be from the top end of the north section flying downstream. This will just give us a general overview of the project area. In the big corridor of trees there would be Little Walnut Creek. We have some pictures. These are representative pictures of similar items of construction as to what you might see or how the construction might look when it's completed. This is not an exact representation. These are just other projects where we did similar items of construction. So this is an open channel, this would be a little bit deeper, I think, than what we'd expect at this project. Rock line channel, this is used to take out grade in the channel so that it's more of an erosion control measure. This is a grassed surface drain, obviously well-established seed there. This is reseeding on a project following the installation of subsurface drain. Cost estimate for the south section of the project. Construction estimate, $83,358.88. Administration, construction inspection, and drainage maintenance pay-in, $9,122.16, for a total of $92,481.04. Of this amount, $31,760 will be for the Todd Street Road culvert, which would be direct assessed to Kingston Township and the Delaware County Engineer. So the total amount, subtracting that $31,760 off, total amount assessed to the landowners for the south section of the project, $60,721.04. For the north section, construction, $17,900.25. Administration, construction inspection, and drainage maintenance pay-in, $1,821.75, for a total of $19,722. Assessments are calculated to individual property owners based on the benefits received as directed by the revised code. Specifically, the revised code says that, quote, "Lands that have been removed from their natural state by deforestation, cultivation, artificial drainage, urban development, or other man-made causes shall be considered as benefited by an improvement required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands," and that's from ORC 6131.01. Our assessment formula, we take acres benefited times the land use factor times percent use, that equals the parcel assessment factor. The parcel percentage share then is determined by the parcel assessment factor for that individual parcel divided by the sum of all assessment factors. And then the parcel assessment is the percentage share times the total estimated cost. Landowners have a couple options to pay their assessment if the board approves the project. They may pay the full assessment up front within 30 days of the final hearing, which would be by August 19th, 2019, and they must give notice of intent to do this by August 8th of 2019. They can also have their assessment placed on the property tax bill, and this would be listed as a special assessment. If the property chooses to have it placed as a special assessment on their taxes, then they would also have interest and other fees if the project is bonded, and there would also be auditors and treasurers' collections fees. So our amortization schedule, this would be assuming no upfront payments at all for the project, and the project would be at its full cost. Total estimated construction cost, both sections, minus the direct assessments, is $80,443. The average assessment in the watershed, not including the right-of-way parcels, is $2,925, and this would equal a 3.6% share of the project. Debt issuing fees average around $8,000. The bond interest, the county gets pretty good interest rates, so we assume a 4% interest for this. $88,443 times 4% equals $3,537.72 total interest. This would add to the construction cost, both the debt issuing and the interest, for a total estimated cost of $91,980.76. So that I think I have a percentage typo there. 3.6% share of the total estimated cost would be $3,311.30. The auditor's treasurer's fees of 2% on top of this, $66.22, for a total parcel assessment for this average parcel of $3,377.52. For an 8-year repayment schedule, this would equal 16 semi-annual installments. This would divide this up into equal payments of $211.09. For bidding and construction, if the project is approved, it will be advertised for public bid. The bid is awarded to the lowest and best bid. And the projects like this are typically not subject to prevailing wage. Important point, bids may not be accepted in excess of the engineer's final hearing estimate. And that is per the revised code. The final schedule of assessments would be reduced pro rata by the difference between the estimated cost and the final cost, assuming the project would come in less than that final estimated cost. And again, it can't come in more. Upfront payments, if someone makes an upfront payment and the project ends up costing less, those parcels would receive a refund. Projects completed under 6131 are required per 6137 to go on a perpetual drainage maintenance program administered by the county. The purpose of drainage maintenance is to keep this project operating at its original design capacity. And maintenance funds are also collected as a special assessment per property tax collection. Common maintenance activities would include inspections, seeding, repairs, and erosion control activities. Maintenance assessments are determined based on the final schedule of construction assessments. And most projects we have average between 2.5% to 5% annually of that final schedule of construction assessments, or the final value of the project. The collection percentage can vary depending on the maintenance needs of the project, however. And the drainage maintenance is perpetual. It does not end. So if the project is approved, it will go on maintenance in perpetuity. So going back to our amortization example, our $3,377.52 final construction assessment times a 3% maintenance collection times 2% auditor and treasurer collection fees of that amount equals an annual maintenance assessment of $103.34. So you can see that equates to $51.67 per half. That will be applied with the construction assessment through the first 8 years of repayment, and then from 2029 on, in this example, the parcel would only be paying that maintenance assessment. The revised code requires us to do a cost-benefit analysis. Benefits of drainage improvements exist for both agricultural and residential parcels. The benefit to agricultural parcels is realized by the increased yield as a result of good drainage. And for the most part, that estimated yield increases, given the soils in the area, would average 46 bushels of corn per acre and 14 bushels per acre for soybeans, given that all the parcels have taken advantage and installed full drainage improvements on their parcels. USDA average crop price for corn is $4.27 per bushel, and for soybeans, it's $11.14 per bushel. There's 25.68 acres of the land in the watershed currently agricultural. So for corn, you can see the 46 bushels per acre increase times the price increase, or times the acres, $5,044 benefit. For soybeans, it would be $4,005 benefit, for an average annual benefit of $4,524. For residential parcels, the benefits we see tend to focus on quality of life, neighborhood perception, and home site sewage treatment systems. A failed home site sewage treatment system can cost a landowner $15,000 to $25,000 to repair or replace. We also find that new developments average $1,000 to $3,000 per lot on providing adequate drainage outlets for the development. So with 22 residential parcels in the watershed, this would equal $22,000 to $66,000 of benefit at a minimum. The board has a couple different decision options before them today. The board can approve both the south and the north section of the project. You can approve the south and deny the north section of the project, or you can deny both parts. If you approve the north, you must approve the south, because the drainage from the north section is dependent upon improving the south section. Approval of any part of the project will require setting repayment period, whether to bond the project, confirming the schedule of assessments, and ordering the project be advertised for competitive bid. If the board makes the decision to deny, it is recommended to distribute the costs incurred by the board, the Delaware County Engineer's Office, and the Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District, incurred to this point to the landowners in the same ratio as determined by the final schedule of assessments. That amount is currently estimated to be $3,500. In the engineer's recommendation, I'm going to read this verbatim. This is quoted from the final hearing report. Based on all of the information gathered and generated, I believe this project as proposed is technically feasible and would serve as an adequate outlet for the drainage needs of the watershed. Furthermore, the parcel assessments for this project are within the range of assessments that can be expected for a project of this scope. The testimony brought to the Board of Commissioners by the landowners as to whether the benefits of this project exceed the cost should be given significant consideration in the decision to move forward with this project.
Thank you. Any questions from the board at this time?
I have nothing at the moment.
Yeah, just a couple things. One of the questions I had was why you did split the two, and I think maybe a clarification of that might be helpful.
Yeah, the split is to provide a more accurate reflection of the costs, so that we don't want to see landowners being assessed for benefits that they don't have improvement of. So.
And the reason that the north can't be approved without the south is the only way for water to get out of the north is through that culvert.
Correct.
And into the south.
Correct.
So, okay. I think that's all I had at this time.
Okay. At this time, then, we will hear from those in favor of the petition project, and if you would just come to the dais and introduce yourself and give us your address, and I will swear you in. Actually, I'm going to swear you in before you give your name and address. How about that? Make sure everything. Yeah, get everything. Anyone in favor of the project?
Commissioner Lewis, we did have two landowners that submitted applications in favor of the petition. I'm not sure if they're here, so in case they are not here, we had one from Motters with 9164 Todd Street Road, and one from a Mr. Anderson, 918 Todd Street Road.
Okay, thank
So
you.
they're on the record.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay, yes. Okay, anyone here to speak in favor of the project? If you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. If you could state your name and address.
My name's Dave Smith. Address is 9225 Todd Street Road.
Which parcel is it? Can you identify that? It helps.
Yeah, that's true.
22.
22?
A little closer. Yeah, 22. First, I just want to make sure, there's been talk between the neighbors that this is constitutional and lawful. I'm assuming this is all on the up and up.
Yes, everything that
Yes.
is mandated by the Ohio Revised Code, and the
Okay,
commissioners are the
Thank you.
ones.
Yeah, and basically, I filed the
Carry
petition because the drainage on the north side of the road, well, and some of the south, jumps watershed. It leaves our watershed, and I've got some pictures here I'll give you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I put a red X there on, by the Todd Street in front of Lot 10 there. That's where all the water currently from every property on the north side goes to if you flip to page 2, it goes just to a catch basin there next to the road. Looks like a rather large catch basin, but there's actually only like an 8-inch tile that goes under the road. So all our water on that side goes to that, which is, of course, if you look at the map, it's off the watershed. No water is capable of going to the south on the surface or through a ditch.
So how does it get to that drain tile then?
How does it get there?
Yeah.
It just runs on the ground. I'll give you some more pictures here.
So it just,
It runs on the ground to the ditch up front, and it goes through everybody's driveway culverts, and then
On
runs.
down the
It's
road.
it's the road ditch, basically.
okay. So it does, I think Brett, you alluded to it, it does jump the watershed and go to a different watershed.
Currently, the grade of the road ditch, especially on the north side of the road, is such that as water comes down to the north side of the right-of-way, it starts to stack up before it crests the road or spill, because imagine the road kind of acting as a dam. Before it crests the road, it spills over the break in the road ditch and goes, into that adjacent watershed to the west.
Yeah, there's a picture from the road to my house.
Okay.
Basically shows, this is, probably a pretty good rain, maybe an inch or two. This picture was taken just last week. This is, in less than an hour, this is facing to the east out towards at the Atkins Field.
Okay.
In less than an hour, we picked up that much rain, and it eventually works its way down to the west there.
This, I assume, is your house?
Correct, yeah.
Does it ever get into the basement of your home, or is it,
No, I've got that all taken care of.
Does it,
Boy, that's
Yeah, we put
amazing.
in a backup sump pump, and my biggest problem with the drainage is it goes.
We better have you, yeah.
Yeah.
so-
The rest of these
Okay.
pictures, I'm just gonna give you all the pictures so we get that.
Yeah, we can divide them, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, save you some time. Yeah.
But you can see, this picture here is,
you need to get to the mic?
yeah, we need you at the mic because we're recording it.
I'll just give you. basically the water just runs, across the property and kind of gets dammed up at, each driveway, and it takes a little, takes days to get rid of the water.
Okay.
There's no suitable outlet for the surface water except for to go to that one grate that I showed you that jumps the watershed there.
Yeah, thank you for the pictures.
Yeah. And I mean, according to this map, everybody, that's involved in this today, water from their property goes into the watershed, whether they want to admit it or not. Everybody uses this watershed, and according to the map, water from their property will flow to a common point, down into the creek. So I believe everybody would benefit in some way from this petition.
Were these photos all from the same rain or from different events?
Some of those are from one rain, the one where you can kind of see water flowing, that's all from one rain. The picture with the red pickup truck in it, that's from a separate rain. But it'll do that probably, like fill the whole front yard like that, probably 20 to 30 times a year.
Are you able to use the driveway when
We have vehicles that,
you can get through?
if you're in a car, it's about a foot and a half deep.
Okay.
So my driveway is washed out so much, I just don't even mess with it, but every 5 or 6 years. And we do have our, everybody has a septic system. Our perimeter drain does run to a point there, and the ditch actually fills, where our perimeter drain dumps into it, it actually fills up when it rains. It pushes water from the south to the north and backfeeds and fills up our ditch where our perimeter drain for our septic is. So I'm assuming every time it fills up, it's pushing water all the way back. It fills up our whole perimeter drain, so that's not good either. The pictures really tell the story. There is an 8-inch tile that runs from, Adkins Field down through my neighbor's property, which would be, what is that there? Number 9. And then comes across, you see the black and yellow dotted. It's, virtually, plugged up. It doesn't run. There's an inspection. There's a grate next to my driveway that, basically, it doesn't drain, very, very, very little. So, I'm in favor of the north and the south petition going through, just because all that stuff needs to be completely reworked to fix the problem once and for all. There's really no way just to put a Band-Aid on it. It has to be, the north and the south have to be pushed through and approved for any of this drainage to work like it should. And that's about it. That's about all I got to say. So,
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the petition? If you'll raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Filbert. I live at 9197 Todd Street Road. I am parcel number 3, way up at the north end of the watershed, and I did sign the original petition.
Okay.
In general, I'm in favor of this project. There are 3 lots at the north end. There's a long common access drive. You can see it between 22 and I think that's 10. And then it goes up between 14 and 11 and serves the 3 properties to the north. every time it rains and Dave's yard fills up with water, the ditches along our common access drive and the driveway itself become submerged. So we have to drive through 6, 8 inches of water on our driveway, because once Dave's yard fills up with water, the culvert under our driveway does not have the capacity, there's no place for the water to go, it backs up over our driveway. And I am sympathetic to Dave's issue when his whole yard fills up with water every time it rains. So I am in favor of this project. I do have one concern, in that the project itself does not include changing the direction of flow in the ditch along Todd Street Road. Now, I've been advised by Soil and Water that reshaping the ditch so that all the water that comes down our common access drive, which includes most of the surface runoff off of 14, 11, 10, 21, 4, our property number 3, part of 13, all that water flows to the west, to the ditch on our driveway, down the driveway to the road, and then it tries to go to the west right now, because the ditch is sloped away from this project. So I was told that once this project is done, our water will still not flow into the project. It will continue to flow to the west until the township comes in and redoes the ditches along the road to reverse the flow back towards the project.
Okay.
I think that's
Brett?
yeah, I was going to say, I got
Yeah,
a question
if
for
you
Brett.
could
'Cause
clarify.
That culvert, I would think,
Our water won't reach this culvert.
I think the issue is more the water backing up because it doesn't have an outlet, so it appears that the ditches are graded away. There may be some grading that needs to be done by the township post this project, and the culvert has been designed at a low enough elevation to allow the township to come in and do that necessary work. But it's the township's right-of-way, it'll be their responsibility to get that work done.
Have you talked to the township?
Absolutely.
They're on
yes.
board?
Yeah, we have a representative from the township here.
All right.
And I know the county engineer's township liaison, Doug Riedel, has had conversations with the township regarding this issue, so.
but if you put the culvert in, wouldn't that by itself take most of the water?
Yes.
Away and across to the
Yes.
south?
And the
there would be
culvert
less
is-
water flowing to the west?
Yes, the culvert is designed to be 2 feet lower than the ditches as they currently exist.
In a much bigger than 8-inch pipe.
Correct. And it has been designed to a 10-year storm, so, which is the standard.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, your concern?
Well, partly. I think he's not correct in, I think from about the middle of parcel number 22, from that point west, the ditch does slope away from the construction project. According to the preliminary plan, the construction project extends 75 feet from the center line of the project, which puts it about at the driveway of parcel 22. From there west, the ditch is still sloping away from the project. That water will not flow uphill to reach the project. You can stand there and watch the water come down our driveway and turn west and go through the culvert pipe. So my only concern is that the township trustees, there's nothing that commits them to doing anything about the road ditches in this project. I may get assessed by the county, but unless the township is somehow compelled to follow up and do the ditches, re-slope the ditches, our water will still not reach this project. And I don't know if the engineer or the county commissioners can put pressure on the township to follow up on their piece of the project. I don't know, but that's my only concern, is that if the township doesn't follow through with what they should be doing, then I get no benefit from the project. But I think it needs to be done.
I guess
Any other?
that follow-up comment from Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, as has been stated many times here, the drainage in this watershed is currently flowing out of this watershed and into a different watershed. So in order to satisfy their requirements or their obligations under the revised code and the way the Ohio drainage laws work and you know, the appropriate Attorney General's opinion, the township's going to, they'll need to regrade those road ditches or run afoul of those opinions and precedents.
So is
So
there anything,
they'll have an obligation to do that, because they have an obligation to keep the water in the watershed that the Mother Nature determined that it should be flowing in.
Okay.
what,
And the county engineer's office and their staff will work with them to make sure that
is there
gets
any
done.
recourse to the landowners to make that happen? Or is it just up to the, our attorney's smiling, so.
Brett, do you want to comment on this? No, I don't want to comment. No, I said Brett. Compelling the township to do the work.
My concern is that the township trustees could just sit on their butt and do nothing. And then, you know, is there anything that can...
Let's, yeah, I think both people, you've already responded to that, Brett, so
Brad, I
let's,
just have
yeah,
a point of clarification.
yeah. Thank you.
To the degree that we get the water through there, although we have really nothing to, the township, I think, we're honorable people, and they'll take care of what they need to take care of. But getting the water through there will help everybody, correct?
Correct.
So there is some benefit,
Yes.
regardless of where
Yeah.
all the water is being removed or not. Just an observation I wanted to get on the records.
The water that currently is just being forced to the west, most of that will go through the culvert, I think.
My expectation is all of it will.
All, okay, okay. So there'd be significant reduction in whatever goes there.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. And is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Okay. Is there anyone who is opposed to the petition project, who wishes to speak?
Commissioner Lewis, we do have some remonstrances against the petition that were turned in from Mr. Radcliffe, who is at 9251 Todd Street Road, Mr. Kerbler, who is at 9310 Todd Street Road, and Mr. Warwick, who is at 9193 Todd Street Road, and you have copies of all of those.
Okay, thank you. If you'd raise your right hand, please, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew Young. I reside at 9248 Todd Street Road.
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Andrew Young, 9248 Todd Street Road. On that map there, my parcel shows as parcel number 16. Before I read my statement, I just want to point out some things for clarification. My parcel is one of 5 other parcels that are part of a subdivision that are off a common access drive. If you can see between parcel 16 and 26, there's a common access drive that runs to the back, and that also serves the 3 properties at the south end of that common access drive. When we purchased our property, ours was the first house built in that subdivision. That subdivision was made when the common access drive was cut. There were already culverts that were cut along that access drive that service those properties. That culvert runs along the west side of the drive, along property 26. To the back of that property, runs underneath the drive through a culvert. I'm sorry, I'm saying culvert, I should say, I mean swale, drainage swale. There are drainage swales on either side of that property. The swale runs to the back of both properties. When it gets to the back of property 26, it runs through a culvert underneath the drive and continues on through a swale that goes around properties 18 and 17, and you can actually see it represented there by that yellow and black dotted line. Follows that same current path. Then it cuts through the back of property 17 and runs into that creek that you see running through the back of the property there. I should mention that creek runs from east to west, but the water flow, when it hits that creek, flows west to east. That's going to be relevant in some comments that I'm going to make later on. But let me read my statement first of all.
Sure.
My wife and I purchased our property in the summer of 2001, and we took residence there just after Thanksgiving of that same year, and we have lived there ever since. We have 5 children whom we homeschool. I'm a small business owner, and I'm the sole income earner for my family. Let me state directly and without equivocation that I am strongly against the Todd Street Road Drainage Project. This project will be of no benefit to the majority of the surrounding landowners and will place an undue financial burden on them as well. My argument is as follows. My first contention is that this is not a new problem that has arisen in recent years. There has always been a problem with water on the property at 9225. For as long as I have lived at my current residence, I have been aware of the water issues across the street. Now, to any casual observer, it is apparent that that property, lot number 22, is significantly lower than the surrounding land. The petitioner should have known this well before he purchased his property, or at the very least have been more selective when deciding on which lot on which to build. When my wife and I selected our lot for building, we chose the one we did specifically because it had higher elevation and would not have any problems with water drainage. Nevertheless, what is done, and we are sometimes stuck with the choices we make regarding the lack of foresight. Still, one question that needs to be asked is, what, if any, steps has the petitioner taken himself to either eliminate or mitigate the water issues on his own, out of his own pocket? 15 years ago, I watched over the course of a week as truckload after truckload after truckload of fill dirt was excavated and hauled away during the excavation of the pond that now occupies the larger part of their 5-acre property. And you can see that pond on the back of parcel 22 there. Here's a rhetorical question. Rather than hauling that dirt away, why was this fill dirt not used to raise the elevation of the land in front that was already known to be prone to flooding? In the course of driving around the various rural areas here in Delaware County, farmland flooded with seasonal spring rain is not an uncommon sight. Also not uncommon is seeing farmers taking steps on their own to eliminate that flooding by installing literally miles of drainage tile in these fields. I expect this is a significant expense to these farmers, yet it is a cost they are willing to pay themselves so that their fields can produce viable crops. Having said that, another question that needs to be asked is this. If the petitioner had had this problem with his property for all this time, why now? He could have addressed this issue at any point in the past 18 years, but now all of a sudden he wants to fix it. And not only fix it, but why choose this course of action to accomplish it? Could it be perhaps that the cost of the fix is cost prohibitive for him alone? And I believe it was 6 years or so ago when our next door neighbor, the previous owner that lives in parcel 26, not the current resident, but the one who lived there previously. About 6 years ago, he sold his house, but before he could sell it, he was required by the Delaware General Health District to fix a drainage issue on his property that was causing his leach field to not function effectively. His solution was to hire a contractor to dress up the swales along that access drive. He paid that cost out of his own pocket. He certainly did not expect his neighbors to have to pay to fix a problem with a leach field on his own private property. Now, there might be one or two here in attendance today, or even those not in attendance, who approve of this project because they believe it will somehow alleviate a problem on their property. There has been talk of mowing ditches and keeping existing swales free of vegetation. I maintain that these are incidental issues that are not related to this current project and should not be a factor in the final decision-making process. Certainly, this has become a divisive issue and that is unfortunate. No matter which way you decide, either to approve or reject this project, there will ultimately be lingering resentment and hard feelings between what should be close neighbors and neighborly relationships. Time may heal some of that, but I fear that the relationships between neighbors in this room will never be the same or ever have a chance to grow into what they could have been. As I see it, this project will only benefit one landowner. It will be of no benefit to me whatsoever. I had the foresight to select a property that would not flood, and now I'm being expected to pay for the poor choices and lack of foresight of another. This is an exchange I did not ask for, but yet it could be forced upon me. I'm going to be expected to somehow come up with $2,400, the amount of my assessment. I ask you, where am I supposed to get that money from? Approval of this project poses the possibility of significant financial hardship for myself and others involved. To the elected officials sitting here before us, hear me very carefully. It is a violation of my rights as a property owner and as an individual to be compelled to pay to fix the problem on someone else's property. If the county deems this project to be necessary, I will have no say in this matter. But this is typical abuse of government force. As an individual, it is necessary for me to determine how to best spend my own hard-earned money. If I encounter a deficit, I have to make a hard choice. I either need to find a way to make more income to offset that deficit, or I need to go without. I do not have the privilege of knocking on my neighbor's door and by use of force compelling them to fund my shortfall. Such an action would find me in very serious trouble. Yet somehow a fellow neighbor, by petitioning a governing body, is able to engage in this very same kind of activity. Let's call this what it really is: sanctioned theft. Having presented these arguments, I strongly urge you to decide against the approval of this project. Now, I also want to mention this, the clerk made reference to a remonstrance that was provided by Steve Warwick, who resides at property parcel number 4. And I have a copy of that remonstrance that Steve sent. And for your consideration, I would like to read that because I believe he makes some points here that are germane, because this presents some information that I don't think has been brought forth to this point yet. It says, "Dear Commissioners, I'm writing this letter in response to the Drainage Improvement Petition Project. Although differing viewpoints have been brought to our attention and some may have been brought to your attention, I want to voice our viewpoint to accurately represent our opinion on this project." This is Steve speaking. Steve Warwick purchased his property in 2002. He says, when we bought it, there was a marshy area that we had to decide whether to spend around $4,500 to fill with dirt or spend roughly the same amount to dig a pond. We opted for the pond and built the home site up to address the drainage issues. We took a lot of our neighbor's drainage from 9197, which is the Filberts, and along with our drainage, put it all in our pond. And if you can see in parcel 4 there is another pond right there. So what Steve is saying is he dug that pond so that he could build up the elevation where his house sits. And that pond also helps to alleviate some of the drainage in the surrounding lots. As a result, there is almost no drainage that leaves my home site except for the 1.874 acres in the common access drive used by properties 9189, 9193, 9197. Several years ago, the petitioners for the project, the Smith family, dug a pond in the rear portion of their property behind their home, and I made reference to this in my statement. Steve says, without informing me nor approaching me for my permission, they created a swale for the overflow of their pond and emptied it into my drainage ditch, which runs along my common access drive. This had already been done by the other neighbors to the driveway. This practice, although not favorable, was permitted because we felt having a pond was a positive thing for their family as it was for ours. This past fall, the Smiths changed the layout of their back property and eliminated the swale, exchanging it for a perforated corrugated pipe which emptied once again into our property in our ditch. Since that day, and still today, there is a constant flow of water from that pipe which turned our once clean drainage ditch into a marshy, stagnant, insect-infested wetland. As was the practice the first time, we were never consulted nor asked permission to complete this dumping of overflow water onto our property. The reason I am bringing these two stories to your knowledge is to describe the frustration that we have had with this same neighbor now petitioning the government to have a problem that existed when they built their home and which could have been eliminated at that time simply by trucking in more dirt to build up their home site. 18 years has passed since then with no efforts made by them to rectify the drainage problem for themselves out of their own funds. Now with this proposed project, the county has assessed us $2,818 as our portion to financially assist them in a project that will not affect us at all. 2 to 3 times a year we have to drive through standing water up to 6 inches deep that is gone by the next day on almost every occasion. In this extremely wet summer, if you drive past our house today, the only standing water you will see is in our ditch and in the area of that ditch that runs between the overflow pipe where it runs into our ditch. There was once a time that I even contemplated digging a concrete pit in my drainage ditch and attaching a pump that could catch and pump the excess water after these rains back up the ditch into my pond, which is almost always 2 to 3 feet below the overflow. That idea was scrapped after research into our cost of installation of the pit, electrical, and necessary equipment to help with their issue. Until this year, our pond has overflowed only once a year in the spring thaw and rains, and not enough to even enter the drainage ditch. This year, it did that twice, but it still never entered the ditch. Please don't assume that our response to this project is fueled by my frustration over the drainage pipe. My frustration is simply that we are being asked to help pay for a resolution to a drainage problem that another homeowner knew about or should have known would arise when he built his home 18 years ago in the fashion that he did. I knew and addressed our problem, that's Steve speaking, which is why I spent $4,500 of my money to resolve it, not asking the Fullers or the Filberts to help, even though their properties were draining into mine. Please know that this project will have no direct benefit to my property at 9193. I am very willing and able to answer any questions you may have about, and so forth and so on, and then he signs it. Now, I mentioned the culvert there at the bottom where it empties into the ditch. And I just want to point to an area, if I may. This area right here, okay, where these driveways divide. Normally, when we get the heavy rains, and Dave showed you the pictures of the water that floods in front of his house, anytime that happens, water flowing from east to west from that creek backs up into that swale, because the swale, you notice, they're running into each other. Water backs up into that swale, floods that swale, and actually floods the access drive almost halfway up the access drive. Now, like I said, my property is high enough that it doesn't affect me whatsoever. However, the 3 properties in the back normally have to drive through about a foot of water to get to their driveways. Now you're talking about a solution that's going to add even more water to that drain. I don't see how that's going to help resolve the problem whatsoever.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
sir.
time.
I have a question for Brenda.
Yes.
You may have a question, too.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Commissioner Merrill?
You have a question for me?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm making an assumption, so you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The area that he's talking about where those driveways come together, I'm assuming when this work is done, that will be addressed as well, to get the flow into the,
There are new driveway culverts being proposed as part of this project that would convey water underneath the CAD and then on down the channel. The channel would be significantly deeper and a little bit wider than what it is right now, so it will have more capacity. But as far as the water backing up out of Little Walnut Creek, and the idea that this project is contributing more water to that, this is a 64-acre watershed, and the watershed at that point of Little Walnut Creek is thousands of acres. To use the analogy that I use often, this project is adding a teaspoon to the bathtub. Little Walnut Creek has always had an influence on this channel and on this area. This project will not change this. It always has and will continue to have an influence on that channel because it is the bottom end of a very, very large watershed. And when that very, very large watershed gets a large slug of rain, it is still going to come out of bank. It is still going to do what that channel of Little Walnut Creek has always done.
so is it coming out of bank, or is it just backing up because the water can't get through there quickly?
No, it's a matter of the flow in Little Walnut Creek.
So it is coming out of bank, yeah?
Yes, yes. It's a flood event, essentially.
Okay, let's continue, and is there anyone else who wishes to testify in opposition to the petition? If you could just raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Edwards, and I am at 9323, which is number 13.
13, okay.
So I will not begin to think that I know anything about water or the way it flows. So I'm looking at this purely from a cost-benefit perspective. And I think, hitting on the 3 points, really considering it from the perspective of, is it necessary? Is it conducive to the public welfare? And do the costs outweigh the benefits? 1 second, sorry.
Okay. All righty.
So one of the things that we did when the project first came out, knowing that kind of this is the process, it comes to you guys, the petition moves ahead, and then the first step is to really see what the cost is. So we met with Brad, he came out, he showed us the lay of the land, explained the project to us, really spent some time understanding it because totally empathize with some of the folks that have water in their driveways, absolutely. And so at that time, didn't come to the first hearing because we said, yep, let's see what this costs, right? These people definitely have a water issue in their driveway. Their front yards, we've seen some water in there. No disagreement with that. So let's see how much this would cost and how much our particular piece would be. So we unfortunately are double those estimates that you saw in there. So we are on the hook for a pretty hefty chunk of change. And then when I look at the benefits in the report that were given, I really took a look at the total cost along 20 years because the benefit that was used was 20 years of crop and then the $66,000 from the improvement for the property. So that gives us a total, or an ROI of around 158 total. So looking at that, I did the 20 years of the assessment for us and added that as well. So that really brings the total project cost quite a bit higher, closer to 180,000 if you go on the higher end with the assessments for 20 years. So looking at it that way. So one of the things I looked at is, hey, what if I put this money in the stock market for the next 20 years? If those farmers took the money that they're being assessed for their parcels, threw it at a 7% return for 20 years, they're going to come out quite a bit ahead versus the 90,000 here. And then if you put the whole project in, you're going to get over $400,000, way above the 158 that's been sort of said the benefit, if you will, or the common good benefit that we would see across the board. So that's one of the factors that we looked at and said, it just financially it's a lot of money for the benefit that the report, is proposing we would receive. Yeah. All right. And I think that is pretty much why, when we look at it, we're, the cost benefit just isn't there. And while it may be necessary, not enough parcels benefit directly, I think, and the way that the assessments by law have to be charged the large amounts that some of us are being charged, we're just not going to see, there's no road damage, there's no common area that's impacted that is unique to all. So while the water, we definitely live in the watershed, the rules of the watershed are if you live in it, they go down. But we don't have water issues on our property, the road's been fine.
That's what you mentioned, yeah, your property then, as far as the water,
We have no issues,
you have no issues.
zero.
Any questions for Sarah? Okay.
But I do have a point of clarification. I think I understand from your earlier comments, I want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
You're 13, so you're over here on this corner, right?
Yeah, we're like above.
Is the water there crossing the road and then coming through there, or is it staying south of the road? Her water from her property?
Her water drains down into parcel 22 and would do what all the water.
So the water
on
is
north
crossing
side.
the road.
Yeah, that would be, what drainage from parcel number 13 would be draining down to the north right away and then currently jumping watershed and going to the west.
That's what I thought. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I was correct.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the petition? Yes, sir. If you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name's Chris Adkins. We own the farm ground there. My brother owns 1, my mother owns 2 and 8. And we originally signed on to the project because you don't really know what it's going to cost before, and there is a problem. And I guess we amended it, I forgot that, to include the tile up there, because our concern is if we're going to get assessed, we might as well get some benefit. When we tiled that field, which would be number 8, we run everything we could to the west because we knew there was no outlet. I think we got, pardon? To the east. So I think we only got 5 or 6 acres of subsoil water going through there because we rerouted as much as possible. So the benefit, we're getting assessed $25,000. I guess the benefit we're getting is having an outlet for 5 acres. It seems like the road's the dam. Is there dam in the water? There's no chance, Brett, that we could, instead of ripping it all out, that we couldn't put a culvert under the road right there and dip that ditch a little bit instead of the whole big project. I mean, it seems like we could put a Band-Aid on it for a little money.
The township is restricted to the road right-of-way in their ability to do construction work. They're not permitted to do work or spend money outside of the road right-of-way. The elevation of the ditches along the CAD on the south side of Todd Street Road, they're not sufficiently deep. They're not at an elevation that really permits the installation of a road culvert that would have any kind of design capacity at that spot. So that's why the project was proposed the way it was.
So dipping this out and
Dipping what?
dipping this open ditch that runs along that driveway.
Well,
Can you just clean that out a little bit? And
I think what you're describing, that's what's being proposed as the south section of the project. But the only mechanism to get that done, that I know of, 2 mechanisms. One would be the petition process that's before us today, and the second would be the landowners getting together as we call it a mutual group or a cooperative group, and everybody pitching in their collective money and hiring a contractor and getting it done. So I can't comment on that. That's, the project that's before us today is the petition process, so that's what we're here to discuss.
And sir, with your other lots, you said that is 8, and is it 1 and 2?
my brother owns 1, Mark,
Okay.
and my mother owns 2 and 8.
Okay,
That.
okay. So
So-
those are the ones, okay.
Together, we got, 25 acres, so
Okay.
we're being assessed $1,000 an acre. Like my mom said, that's more than she paid for it. So I question the benefit we're getting. I get it, I want to be a good neighbor and the surface water goes through there, but the cost just seems kind of excessive. I mean, so that's all I
Okay,
can say.
thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the petition? Oh, yes, yes, go ahead.
That land is $90,000 of the benefit of the 158. So if he's saying he's not going to realize that 90,000 of benefit, I just wanted to make sure we're clarify that. So he's $90,000 of the 158 that's in the report of the benefit for doing this. So if he's saying that benefit isn't there for him,
Oh, I see
that's
what you're
significant.
Just a point of clarification, the report did not specify a time frame for benefits. So any, a 20-year, 30-year period of benefit, that's just an arbitrary figure. There was no report or no time period specified in the report for the period of benefits.
What was the alternative again, Brett, that you were mentioning in lieu of this?
The alternative, this would be before any group of landowners seeking to make drainage improvements, but, the groups can either get together as cooperative group and, do a project without seeking assistance from the county, and they basically get together, everybody pitches in their money, and they hire a contractor, and they do the work, or if they feel that's not possible in that setting, then they can seek to do that under the ditch petition process under the revised code.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Is there anyone else who would like to testify in opposition to the petition? Okay, this brings it back. Do we have questions of Brett?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, just a statement. These things are never easy. We're obligated by the state to perform this responsibility, so it's always a difficulty. And as you can tell, one of you made the comment about neighbors, and it's always the hope that we leave here still friends and neighbors, but I understand that sometimes things like this get in the way of that. Just a statement I wanted to make. As we make our evaluation here, a comment was made by, I don't recall which person, maybe Mr. Young. The property owner, Mr. Smith, had the opportunity to haul in dirt from when he put his pond in to raise the level of his property. I'm guessing what that would do, just change the water flow. It just puts the problem
Yes.
somewhere else.
Yes, just in a general sense, we, the Soil and Water District, the county engineer, we don't recommend using fill to solve a drainage problem. What that ends up doing is just moving the low around. We'll oftentimes block the drainage onto another property owner. So the solution to a drainage problem is looking downstream and making sure that the drainage has that good and sufficient outlet.
I thought that would be your answer, but I just wanted to confirm what I thought was the case. That's all I have at the moment.
Yeah, I guess just kind of to that point, I mean, at this point, there is not a good and sufficient outlet system working here.
That's correct.
In this watershed.
Yes. The drainage system as it exists today would not meet current engineering standards as a good and sufficient outlet.
Anything you've heard, Commissioner Merrill's usually asks this question,
Feeling
anything you've
his
heard that would change your opinion about the
No,
lack of sufficient,
no.
and that something has to be done? I mean, construction work has to be done to improve the drainage system.
To bring the drainage up to current engineering standards, yes, something would need to be done. Whether the costs exceed the benefits, or the benefits exceed the costs, I would defer to your judgment of the testimony of the landowners.
Well, part of this is subjective, obviously, as far as how you quantify the cost. The agriculture part of it is a little more straightforward.
Right.
But the rest of it is a little
Yes.
more.
From a cost-benefit analysis, the benefits are much easier to quantify from a monetary standard for agricultural lands than it is for residential properties. It's a little more subjective.
This is a question you may not want to answer. I'm not sure I even want to ask it, but I'm going to anyway. When a property owner chooses to build in a lower level area, do you see any responsibility that property owner has when they ultimately build and they're, because if they are the lower, and this is something mentioned by one of the commenters, does that factor into your evaluation at all?
I'm going to answer it this way. 6131 is a mechanism for landowners to seek drainage improvements. We get this question a lot, and there's just no prerequisite as to who can use this process. There's no qualification process that you have to have, picked a good lot or to have been, exercised any kind of level of judgment in your decision-making. It's a process that's available to everyone. So, I don't know what the petitioners, and there's been more than obviously one property that signed the petition, as shown on the map there. Every property in blue has signed the petition. What decision-making or what efforts those properties have done in trying to solve this problem on their own, I can't answer that for them.
I think I also heard that at least one petitioner representing 3 properties, if he was doing it today, would not have signed, so.
I would agree,
So
yes.
it's somewhat
yes.
fluid.
Yeah.
The letters that you received is also from a person that originally signed the petition, one of the against letters.
Yeah, do you want to just go ahead and speak at the mic? Sorry, we're on.
My understanding is that, and I don't know which parcel he is, one of the other original petition signers has, after seeing the cost, also agreed that it's not something, and he sent a letter.
It'd be parcel number 6.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Smith? Uh-huh.
Yeah, if the floor is open. When we first moved in 1998, when we started building in early 1998, there was a low-lying area in the front of our house, okay? At that time, there was no other houses there's no houses on the south, it was all farm. No other houses on the north except for parcel 9 there next to us, John Breckenridge. And the water flowed freely past our yard, and guess where it went? It went to my neighbors and parcel 10 or whatever there, and down to the Alshires to the corner of the property. And we didn't have, a foot and a half of water. When they put a common drive in, 3, 4, 5 years later, that dams it up and sends it through a 12-inch culvert. So as construction started and, people moved in, it adds water to, it adds obstructions and whatnot. Yeah, and to the point, that if I could have done something, I'd have done it 20 years ago. I can't bore a hole under the road, and, I could, if I wanted to stop my problem, I could put a 5-foot dam along the east side of my property and make it somebody else's problem. The bottom line is the water needs a sufficient, and if I could have done it, I would have. I don't want to piss off any neighbors. We got to live there. We're planning on living there a long time, and so are most of my neighbors. It's a nice place to live. It's nice and quiet. Everybody gets along. If there was another alternative, I would have done it. The bottom line, I can't, you could probably put a pond 50 feet deep in my front yard, let it fill up, and then the next rain that comes, it's going to overflow and keep going. It's just the bottom line, water is going to seek its own level, and there's no way to get it into our watershed besides going under the road, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir. Just state your name again.
Tom Filbert,
Okay.
on parcel number 3. I've heard, after all the testimony today, I just wanted to make a point that me personally, our property won't benefit from this project. We have no drainage issues on our lot. Our water goes away. I recognize, I'm retired now, but I was a public servant for 40 years. I recognize that the problem is a neighborhood problem. It's not my personal problem. There's a lot of water that ends up, has no place to go. My assessment is about $5,900, quite a bit higher than most. I get no benefit, but it's good for the neighborhood. And I just wanted to make a point that, yeah, it's a big chunk of change that I'm going to have to pay if it's approved, but the neighborhood as a whole will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't get a benefit.
Well, just yeah.
Just one quick thing for me, and I'll be done, but.
And just state your name again.
Dave Smith, 9225 Todd Street Road. I think that Kingston Township has a lot of responsibility in this. Over the years, they've had to known, I mean, when the road was originally put in, they put subsurface drains that jumped watershed. I mean, the township installed that, you know, whenever, I don't know, 50 years ago, 40, 30, or whatever. That the township should have, you know, been proactive years and years ago. But I mean, they weren't and they didn't, and it was, you know, to today's standards, like Brett said, it's not in according to code.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Yeah, yes.
Andy Young, once again. There have been a lot of statements made regarding those who receive no benefit from this project whatsoever. And of course, I am one of them. Issues regarding septic system failure. I've never had a problem with my septic system. And again, my property is high enough elevation. I don't ever foresee a problem with my septic system ever failing. So again, for me, there's going to be no benefit whatsoever. Others have mentioned they don't receive a benefit, or it's not going to be of a benefit for them, but they still think it's a good idea. To that I say, that's great. If you think it's a benefit, if it's going to benefit the neighborhood, and you want to pay that cost, by all means, go ahead and pay that. But don't make that decision for me.
Mr. Young wants to make a comment. Regardless of how we rule today, and frankly, I'm still undecided, everybody's water contributes to the problem. Whether your property is dry or not is irrelevant to this meeting today, because your water is part of the watershed. So it has absolutely zero to do with whether you personally benefit based on the fact that you don't have water on your property. That's not the issue today. We're trying to find out within this group whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, whether the benefits exceed the costs. It's important as good neighbors, everybody understand that. So
I concede
want to
that.
make that point.
I concede that, and I'm willing to concede that point. And my biggest issue is the fact that you're talking about other people making decisions for other people that they have no say in, and that's my problem. That's my biggest problem.
I just want to clarify that.
Understand? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I think we've heard everybody. So let's move.
We can close the public hearing.
Yeah, okay.
Resolution number 19-691, in the matter of closing the public hearing to address the Kingston Township Watershed Number 2017-2 Drainage Improvement Petition Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-691. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye. Okay.
I'll go first. A lot of these are very clear, and it's easy for us to decide yea or nay. Frankly, I find this one, and I'm still struggling with what I'm going to decide here, so please, whatever I decide, someone's unhappy. And of course, I'm only one vote, but I'm going to give you a little lecture. You got to leave here, you're still neighbors, still try to find a way to be friendly. That's my lecture, I'm done with that. The problem I'm struggling with, it has nothing to do, yes, there's a problem, whether or not the benefits exceed the cost, I'm struggling with. A lot of times these are really obvious. It's much less obvious to me in this scenario than typically. So I'm going to, And that's where I'm struggling, so I'm going to shut up and listen to my fellow commissioners, and maybe they'll be persuasive, but right now, I'm undecided.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough one. This,
Yeah.
again, the concept is that the watershed, everybody in the watershed contributes to the problem and needs to be part of the solution. And to me, it seems pretty clear there is a problem. We've seen it personally, we've done the viewing, we've seen pictures. And the solution is the culvert and a lot of tile and so on. So, yeah, again, I'm wrestling with this one too.
I recognize there's a problem. The question I'm struggling with is, does the cost exceed the
Yeah,
benefit?
and it's a tough.
If we would deny this, then Brett, yeah, if I could ask you to come to the podium. If one of the alternatives you mentioned is that the neighbors do get together and find a common solution, there definitely is a problem here. Working with the township to find a solution where the township would be able to help. And already under this petition, the township would be paying, what is it, about $30,000 for this, I believe. Is that the number the township was in?
Yeah, just under 32.
Around, yeah.
And
Okay.
that number does not include, the township has a calculated assessment as a property owner within the watershed as well. So that 32 is just their direct assessment.
I suppose one option would be is if we do deny it and the neighbors get together and work with the township and then do try and come up with a solution, then can this, I take it, the petition can always be refiled in the future?
Yeah, any petition could be refiled.
And brought before us. That's about the only alternative.
Yeah, I don't know, it's our responsibility to put the burden onto the township. I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah,
They have
right,
to decide
that's
for
true,
themselves. So
yeah.
I just
Yeah,
I
the
think I need to
township.
clarify that
One
point.
other, I
Yes,
guess one other
right.
comment for Brett is the project is now split between north and south, and in the north project primarily, the cost of the north project primarily goes to the ag.
Correct.
Acreage.
Yes.
And by Mr. Adkins' testimony, he doesn't think it's worth the cost. So, to me, it seems like the north should be denied, since most of the cost is the ag, and he doesn't think it's worth the cost.
That would be reflective of the testimony.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's, one thing I've concluded anyway.
So you would deny the
The north.
north,
Yeah, I think of the 30-some thousand, or no,
let's see.
how much is it?
North was
There it
19. Of the 19, 18 goes.
7, 19.8,
ag
yeah.
parcels.
Yeah, my comment on that, good, bad, or indifferent, is the water problem that's visible is based on the north side, so it doesn't really, it wouldn't really, well, I guess theoretically, if the water is flowing over the, so what would that do, let me ask this question, what would that do to the south side if we denied the north? Is there minimal benefit, or really no benefit?
No change at all to the south side.
So it really doesn't.
And as part of the engineering or the design for the south section would be to pick up the existing subsurface drain on the north side of the road and tie it into the new subsurface drain. So really, the improvements from the north side would be from the right-of-way up. It would still have a new tile to flow to, just only from the road down. And obviously, the culvert and surface drainage improvements.
Yeah, well, you said the north can't be approved without the south.
Correct. But the south can be approved.
South can be approved
Without
without
the
the north,
Yeah,
which is
it
what you
just,
were.
yeah, it just seemed,
same.
decided.
And I know those scenarios get confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously, the south's flowing into the creek, so if you don't do anything there, the others doesn't really matter.
Correct.
I have not been convinced that the costs exceed the benefits, so I'm going to ask that we read the one to deny.
We're on page 522. Resolution number 19692, in the matter of the Commissioners setting aside the order for and dismissing the south section of the Kingston Township watershed number 27-2 drainage improvement petition due to one or more of the following reasons, and Commissioners Merrill reasoning is that the projection necessary is, cost exceeds the benefit for the project. So that will be how the resolution will read.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Merrill.
I'll second it. Well, maybe we'll go in discussion here in a second.
Yeah, okay. Any more further, no further discussion, vote.
No, we got,
We're discussion. So it's been
We got
motioned
discussion.
by Commissioner Merrill and seconded by Commissioner Benton.
yeah, so now it's discussion.
Now it's discussion, yeah.
Well, I'll just, again, I think I've kind of already alluded to how this is as tough a one as we've had, and
Yeah, it is.
I struggle, but I'm not convinced that the costs exceed the benefits. But I did want to make a point about the water belongs to everybody regardless of where your property is dry or not. I think that.
Yeah, I
everybody
think
needs to
that's a very
understand
good point to make.
But having said that, I still don't believe the costs exceed the benefits. And that is one of the criteria in which we have to make a judgment, one of the four. And for that reason, I cannot support it, and I am going to vote to deny it. But I do, as neighbors, it's my hope, my prayer, that you will find a way to have a conversation, and I appreciate everybody going through this process. It's good, it's tough on us, it's certainly been tough on you. And with that, I have nothing else to say.
I'm struggling too with the costs not exceeding the benefits, so I will vote to deny it for the reasons stated. I do think, though, that throughout this whole process, we've done many of these, and to say that, like if I were involved in this, to say my property isn't affected, therefore I shouldn't have to pay anything. The problem there is that it really is affected the way water works, and so within a watershed, all these properties are affected. It comes down with me the same as Commissioner Merrill. I don't think that the costs, to me, the costs exceed the benefit. So I will vote to deny.
Yeah, I will as well. And again, I would encourage the neighborhood. I do think
Yeah.
there's a solution here, and I do think there's a problem. And everybody, as Commissioner both has said, everybody contributes to it, whether they benefit or not. Everybody does contribute it, because your property gets a certain amount of rainfall that goes into the creeks and beds. So we have our prosecutor's office.
Counsel, yeah.
I'm not from the prosecutor's office.
Our counsel, our counsel.
Our counsel.
Eric Hostetler, I just had a question. In the draft journal, there were separate resolutions for the north section and the south
Correct.
section.
The north section will not, assuming the board votes to dismiss the south section, the north section cannot be considered.
But the motion on the floor is to deny or set aside the order for the south section. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Eric. All right, any further discussion? Let's vote.
Vote on motion 19-692. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Since the board has set aside the order for the petition, we do have one more resolution that we need to consider now. We might need some advice from Brett and Eric on that, I'm not sure. Resolution number 19-693, in the matter of ordering that the cost for the proceedings of the south section of the Kingston Township watershed number 2017-2 drainage improvement petition project, including the cost incurred by the Board of Commissioners, the county engineer, and the Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District in making surveys, plans, reports, and schedules be distributed to the landowners in the same ratio as determined in the final estimated assessments presented at the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Shall we ask for a clarification?
Yeah, maybe Brett could
Yeah.
explain what this motion is for.
Costs incurred to date would be the commissioner's cost for sending the certified mailings for the watershed, any costs incurred by the county engineer's office, and the costs incurred by the Soil and Water Conservation District for our engineering and survey work for the project and preparation of the materials for the final hearing.
And we represent the taxpayers throughout the county, so I think it's reasonable that we do treat all the taxpayers in the county fairly, so I will support it.
Do you have any idea how much that will be?
Yeah, that was in the final hearing report. That amount is currently estimated to be around $3,500. We would do a final calculation of that cost based on this motion.
Okay. All right.
And that resolution, as it reads now, it would be installments over a 2-year period placed on the real estate as a special assessment.
Over a 2-year
2
period.
years.
Can they prepay it if
No.
they want to?
And also, as a point of clarification, there were a couple landowners that paid ahead of time, but
Okay.
early. Those checks will be returned.
Okay, thank you. All right. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-693. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
And we are now recessed.
Well, no, we do have reason for executive
Right,
session.
into executive.
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
Resolution number 19-694, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of compensation of a public employee or public official, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, for pending or imminent litigation, and for collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Vote.
Vote on motion 19-694. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye, we are now recessed into executive session. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can stay here, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, you're good.
Yeah,
We
you're
just-
fine, you're fine.
So you know what's going on.
Just ignore what we're doing.
Resolution number 19-695, in the matter of adjourning out of executive session.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-695. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton is absent.
We are,
We're recessed.
Recessed.
Until 1 PM.
yes, until 1 PM.
Partner, go eat some pizza.
We'll be right back.